going to go over today is the fear of the future. And there's a lot of things that people worry about. I mean, we got North Korea, we got the garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean, garbage patch in the Atlantic Ocean, we got Trump, we got Clinton, we got Obama.
Don't forget about the fuel rods in Japan, one earthquake away from.
Yeah, the Fukushima.
Yeah.
We have that nobody's talking about, but people are worried about it. Fish washing up on the Pacific coasts of North, Central, and South America, like millions of fish dead. There's all these things going on. Crime, Democrats, Republicans, immigration.
Crime.
Yeah, a lot of people, like with the guy, he had been deported 5 times.
Yeah.
And he killed that woman, and he got
acquitted.
I guess because he wasn't black. I don't know. I'm just saying, but people worry about that, And then there's a lot of sarcasm and taunting and
cynicism and
cynicism, and a whole bunch of stuff going on, And then of course there's the thing that a lot of minority people like to talk about is the racism, and sexism and stuff like that. But since we're coming out on a neighborhood radio station, that thank God is here to give us this venue. I want to talk about some of the things that black people are worried about, or minorities or whatever. What we're worried about, what we are worried about, and that makes us fearful. And it's like the news is always giving us this onslaught of bad news and things to be worried about. Oh man, I thought this was over. No, it's this. And then while you're thinking about that, it's this. That's why a lot of people turn the news off.
Right.
Let's read Luke 21, in Luke 21, because this fearful situation was actually prophesied by Christ himself.
Right.
And not, we're not talking about the Caesar Borgia of Christ. We're not talking about the Caesar Borgia Christ, who is actually Horus or Baal. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the Christ of the Bible. Just to make sure that we got to make that separation, as the scriptures do as well. Let's read Luke 21, verses 25 and 26.
Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
Okay, hold on. So, and this passage here is, because if you look in verse 27, it's talking about, and then they shall see the Son of Man coming in great
Right.
glory, and he's going to set the earth back correct.
Right.
According to as it is written.
Right.
So there's this period of time between 70 A.D., which is described in verse 24, and when Christ comes back. And Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2 tell you that it was already the last days when Christ came.
Right.
Okay? So this signs in the sun and in the moon. We be having all these eclipses that people, there was an eclipse, I don't know, a couple years ago. It was in Europe. People was flocking into Europe.
Right. See the eclipse.
And see the eclipse. And then, this sign over here. And then, there was a super moon right before Halloween or something
blood
like that.
Moon or whatever.
Yeah, blood moon and all this other stuff. And all these things. It hasn't happened in 1,000 years.
Yeah.
All this stuff going on. And then you got certain things in the stars, like a brother was talking last night about this star that had moved 10 times as much as their expectations in the last, 40 or 50 years.
Right.
All these things that people are looking at. And it says, and upon the earth, distress of nations. So you got distress of nations. Look at what's happening in Libya, this distress that we hear about that's going on. That they taking and just kidnapping people, and the modern slavery and all this other stuff that's going on that they report. And then you got, the people like the North Korea and South Korea, people at each other. They've been at each other, how long has it been now, 60 years?
Something like that, since 1948, not 48.
No, 56,
50
somewhere around there.
In the 50s.
Since they made the DMZ.
Through the line.
Demilitarized.
The Marshall Plan or whatever.
Yeah,
that part of
demilitarized zone. So it's always been active. And you got, why is before these imperialists came over there, y'all was actually the same people.
Right.
So
that man just drew a line in the map and y'all became different people.
Yeah. So
the 54th
and that trips me out because you got people like I don't know if it's in Texas or New Mexico, once a year or twice a year they open up the border between that state and and Mexico in this town, and people come, they have a family reunion.
Right.
So and you gotta have people sitting back like, why? How is it a different country? These are the same people.
Right.
Just like another example, Iraq, Iran. It was a certain area occupied by Sunnis. It was a certain area occupied by Shiites, and then the other ones who claimed descendants from the Macedonian king Alexander. They're the Kurds.
Right.
They had separate areas. They had their own borders, and people come in and draw borders where the three of them got to live together.
Right.
And then two of them over here in this next country. How do you? Why would you do something like that to make conflict with these? So that's the perplexity and stuff is going on, and then the mystery about how all this stuff is happening. Blah blah blah. Okay, the sea and the waves roaring. We just had Houston. The Puerto Rico. Of course, and then
all those little islands.
Yeah, the one they're not going to repopulate.
I think Dominica.
Something like that. So all these things are happening. It's like, what is going on? It's got to mean something. Well, the news says that it's global
warming,
climate change.
Well, they changed it from global warming to climate change.
Okay.
Because they couldn't fake the warming trends
anymore.
So they went to climate change.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it's now climate change. Right. So all of this stuff, research that yourself. The sea and the waves roaring, regardless of what men want to call it, Christ prophesied this, that this was going to happen, right? So read Luke 21, verse 26.
Luke 21:26. Men's hearts failing them for fear.
Wow.
And for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
Okay, and then the next verse says, and then they shall see the Son of Man coming in, great power and glory. So men's hearts failing them for fear and failing them for looking after those things which are coming. So hearing all this stuff, it's like we trying to set records of how many people how many of our people are going to die in Chicago. But then you got the real drug dealers that take it to the next level. I mean, in what was that, Guadalajara or one of the cities in Mexico. I think what's the city across from San Diego?
I forget.
But it was one city in Mexico. It was like 6,000 people died in these drug wars. Right. But they're the same people killing the same people. So people look at this, especially our people, because we tend to take things to heart, and as we claim to be more spiritual and trusting in God, we tend to look at this stuff and be like, what is going on? How can this happen? Why is all this stuff happening? It's got to mean something,
And basically, the context of it is, when you're looking at the passage here, is Christ making a prophecy of something that was going to happen. And you can mark it because what he talked about in verse 24 about Jerusalem falling, we know that was the onslaught of General Titus and his son after him, Vespasian.
Yes.
That came and trodden down Jerusalem, and then the city fell into the hands of the Gentiles again. And then all these things are going to happen in the earth until what? Yeah. The end.
Yes.
The end. Yes. That's what he's talking about. That's why it says in verse 27, and they shall see the Son of Man coming.
Yep.
That means that the kingdom is going to be established. Yep. So from what he was talking about in 70 AD until the end, is when these stuff, and we're seeing it right now.
Yep.
And we've been seeing it.
Yes. Yes. And there's a reason why this stuff happens. Okay? So I just want to read this one part again. Read 26 again, men's hearts.
Luke 21, verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth.
Because there's no stability or anything that can be had in this world from that time until Christ comes back.
All right,
Okay.
we just brought the radio audience live with the brothers from the Body of Christ Church. 1-877-871-1712, thebocc.com.
Yeah.
And what we're going over is the fear of the future. And we've been talking about what is recorded in Luke, the 21st chapter.
Read it again. 12, verse 26.
Verse 26. Luke 21, verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
So people try to get all, and I like this term, metaphysical.
Right, yeah, exactly.
In determining what that is, they look over the part that men's hearts are failing because of the fear of the anticipation of what's coming,
Right.
the danger that's coming. And then they overlook that, and then they say, hey, well, let's look at the powers of heaven being shaken.
Right.
That's only going into the Babylonian kingdom fell the same way to the Medes and Persians. Go to Isaiah 13.
Oh, the great war in heaven? Where Gabriel had a bandage on his head fighting with the other angels?
Yeah, okay.
Isaiah 13.
Isaiah 13.
14.
Yeah, Isaiah. Well, this is leading up to
this
it.
is the
Isaiah
part.
13. Start at 11.
Okay. Isaiah 13, verse 11. And I will push the world for
Punish.
And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity.
Okay.
And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
Okay, so you think this is the first time we've had pride as a spirit in the world? No, because it got destroyed before.
Right.
Read
And
on.
this is the oracle of Babylon,
Yes.
13th and 14th chapter.
Yeah.
The kingdom that was actually set up.
Yes.
That took Jerusalem down the first time.
Yep. Okay,
What
then read verse 12.
Verse 12. Isaiah 13, verse 12. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir.
So what that's talking about is, like there was this movie, Sam Elliott was, I think they was getting ready to go on D-Day or something, and he was on the boat, and he didn't have a gun with him. They was getting ready to do this invasion, and it was like, yo, why don't you have a gun? And he was like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of them lying around. You know, so a man that's living is going to be a rare thing, rare like gold.
Right.
In this time when this destruction comes,
Right, exactly.
when the wicked perishing, right? But so read verse 13.
Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger.
So what that's talking about is the judgment is coming, and when that judgment comes, the world is going to shake. It's like,
Right.
you know how, let me see, if you working and like you cutting wood, you know, you cutting the like you got logs, and then you cut a tree down, you cut them into shorter pieces so you can make firewood.
Right.
You got a saw. When you take your jacket off, it's got sawdust all over, so you shake it,
Right.
and you shake all the stuff you don't want off of it.
Right.
That's what's going to happen in that day of judgment.
Right. So basically it's talking about a violent overthrow of a kingdom. A system of government that has been what? Entrenched in the earth. And he's talking about how the Babylonian kingdom is going to come crashing down, and their evil is being brought to the course and test.
Yes.
When you get to verse 14, it ain't talking about...
Yeah, chapter 14.
Chapter 14, rather, it ain't going into some fight in heaven.
It's talking about
It's talking about the Babylonians.
And it's called him Lucifer, the day star, and
Exactly.
everything, because they were worshiping Lucifer.
Exactly.
And they were worshiping the
Right.
same traditions that the first Babylon under Nimrod
Right.
had worshipped, and the same traditions that this kingdom now, which
Right.
the Bible and Revelations calls Babylon.
And I don't want to jump ahead, but I just
Yeah.
want to say consistently, harmoniously, just like Christ said, when they shall see the Son of Man, there's going to be another violent overthrow, just
Yeah.
like with the Babylonians, just like with the Persian Medes,
Yep.
just like with the Greeks.
Yep.
And then what? the Roman captivity,
They-
what we're dealing with right now.
Yes, how they overthrew the Jews.
Exactly. And then we're in the same captivity now. It's going to be a violent overthrow, but it's going to be a righteous kingdom set up in place.
But listen,
Right.
the scriptures point out that the Son of Man is going to do that.
Exactly.
Not the people that follow him.
Right. Well,
That some believe that, some believe otherwise.
well, the saints going to wake up with their swords in their
Yeah,
hands.
whatever, man. Who cares? Who cares? Was that talking about the end days, or was that talking about another time in another world? I don't even want to get into it. But the thing is, when you know that this stuff is coming, and like it says in Luke 21:26,
Right.
all these things to be fearful about. Now listen, fear is either one of two things. Fear is an unpleasant, often strong, sometimes subtle, emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. And danger is exposure to loss, harm, injury, or pain. Fear, that definition of fear is synonymous with despair, agony, worry, stress, being troubled, or having hopelessness, or which is hopelessness is a mindset where you have a give-up spirit. Okay. The other definition of fear is an awesome respect for
reverence.
or loyalty, reverence for as to God. Okay, so it looks like there's going to be a lot of people going into the first definition where they have this strong emotion like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So how can there be any comfort from that? From that emotion? Because we know that when emotion comes in, wisdom departs.
Right.
So let's go to Romans 15 and read verse 4.
Romans 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning,
Yes.
that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
So that hope is going to cast out that fear, or as you become more exercised to discern between good and evil, not in others,
Right.
in yourself first,
Right.
you will be able to, hey, you know what? I shouldn't think that way.
Right.
Let me go and get right and think right about this so I don't go into this fear. I'd rather have, and what this class is about is a choice. You're either going to fear the world and what's coming, or you're going to fear the Most High.
Right.
According to as it is
Because
written.
you just read here that hope takes away the other fear.
Yes.
The fear of hopelessness.
Yes.
Meaning, I'm just going to just the hell with it or bury my head in the sand.
Yeah, exactly.
What can I do?
Or be depressed, or
Right.
give up, or you know, you going out doing what you want to do and you know it's wrong, but you know that something is going to come eventually and get you because you know you ain't right. You know, the scriptures take that away.
You got to die with something.
Yeah, okay. Well, I might get across the street out here right now and get hit by a bus.
Yeah, so what the hell?
I might as well keep smoking. Okay. Or committing adultery.
Right.
Or hating. Or grudging. Or whatever. You know. So, that thing, that fear, I want to go back to Luke. That
Luke,
fear.
21?
Yeah. That fear that was mentioned in Luke 21:26 was the result of something happening. And Christ said what it was. He described what it was, and he said it was coming. Read Luke 21, verse 22.
Luke 21, verse 22.
Why is this fear coming in these last days? Read.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Written where? Oh, boy. I feel sorry for apologists because they hate Deuteronomy 28. Read that 22 to 24.
Luke 21, verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child and with them that give suck in those days. For there shall be a great distress in the land and wrath upon this people.
Who is this people?
The Israelites that are in Jerusalem.
At that time.
At that time.
Read 24.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Ouch. And then we have all these signs in the sun, the moon, the war, the seas, waves, and roaring, and The
Men's hearts
perplexity
fell in them.
for fear.
Right.
Okay.
Until the end.
Until the end.
Right.
All right. So it didn't happen just one time.
Right.
It didn't happen in 70 AD when some of the Israelites were taken into Egypt again by ships. Because that wasn't the only place that they were put in Egypt, aka bondage, according to the word, because the word Egypt means bondage in the Bible. That's why it was called Egypt. And that's one of the few things that men haven't erased or changed from the Bible. They done got everything else. They done got marriage, they done got all this other stuff. But, it changed the definition of what it is to them instead of going by the definition of what it is in the Bible. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and check and see what some of these things that were written that were continual until Christ came back.
Until the end.
Until the end.
Where you at? Where you want?
Deuteronomy 28:15.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Because when these things happen, we're going to skip around here, but when these things happen to this certain set of people, that no matter where they live in the world, the same things keep happening. There's a bunch of people taking fentanyl and heroin, and they starting to take fentanyl here where we're at in this city.
Right.
I was just out of town. They had a corner store that was hustling just fentanyl. They had so much fentanyl in this corner store, the police with the hazmat suits on was taking the stuff out of the store for 6 hours.
So they wouldn't get contaminated. That's why they had to have
Because you touch it, you get high. They had the respirators on.
It's not funny, but you got to laugh for that.
But where was that store located?
Baltimore.
In Baltimore, but it was located in a neighborhood where we are.
Well, that's Baltimore.
Well, but still in all. But Baltimore, just like DJ Quick back in the day had this store, St. Louis, boom, 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 is just like Compton. New York is just like Compton. And he put it in a song. Yeah, it's the people and the things that they have done that are against the Lord, which is why they have these conditions,
right.
Or if you want to get all Merlinish, curses upon them.
Right.
So, we're going over these scriptures so that you can be comforted. Man, why this always happening to us? We ain't got no way out. This is just going to...
Yeah, you do.
No, you have hope knowing that, listen, this is for a reason, and you can backtrack away from causing these things to come upon you.
By something that you can do.
Exactly.
Right.
And how you treat God and how you treat your neighbor.
Right.
Meaning all people that you come in contact with. Because it's not right, according to the Bible, to have love for this dude and then somebody that don't look like this dude, or you see him and you got hatred for them. And that's a bunch of things that some Israelites, black identity extremists can't handle. So let's read. We understand that this stuff will come to pass on us and be on us until the end, because Christ said it. But that these things would identify the people, and this is why they come upon us, because we disobey. Read Deuteronomy 28:37.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 37. I'm just laughing. That's something. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
I'm going to give you a quick definition of byword. S-P-I-K, wet, B-A-C-K, N-I-G, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
The people in Iraq, Iran, and Pakistan that were taken from Africa in Central Africa, which the map makers called Negro Land, which from
people
the
town of Judah, Ephraim, or whatever the
exactly
that they
were taken there in the 1400s, starting in the 1400s, and they live under the same conditions there that we do, and they have all the crime, the drug dealing, all this other stuff, and they're called a slur. Exactly. A slur, a derogatory term that means either black or slave. Yep. They also fall in unto this.
And when you look at the things that's going on in their society, when you look at those people over there, what are they complaining about? Equal housing,
reparations, rights, basic human rights,
on the housing, so on and so forth.
Hands up, don't shoot,
Exactly,
stuff like that.
the same thing that we dealing with over here.
When the Lord said, didn't Christ say in Luke 21:24 that they shall be captive in all nations?
Yeah, exactly.
So that destroys the Christ's understanding, destroys the understanding of men that these people would only be scattered into North, Central, South America and the Caribbean islands.
Right. Let me just make out 2 points.
Uh-huh.
And based on what people's ignorance, cognitive dissonance sets in. Like you made a statement about it's not justifiable for us to hate any man.
Yeah.
Right.
Not according to the scriptures.
So cognitive dissonance, because what you're doing now is you're crushing people's whole foundation. Because a lot of these Israelite groups and
black identity
extremists,
yes.
or BHIs, Black Hebrew Israelite groups, the foundation of their teaching is hate the white man only.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what they deal with.
Yeah.
The hell with all the other nations, because Christ said we was going to fall into captivity under other nations.
Yes. Yes.
So 2 things in the ignorance. What do we get a lot? We get a visual of somebody looking at you and saying, we can't justify what they're saying because he's an Edomite. Don't know nothing about you. Don't know where you come from.
Thanks.
Don't know, as they say, who your father is.
Yeah.
But they just make a what? Blanket statement from cognitive dissonance to say, the hell with that. Number 2, something else you said.
Okay. Interesting.
You said our people are spread all over the world.
No, the Bible said it.
You can go on YouTube and see our people in Turkey complaining about what?
Same thing we complain about here.
In Iraq, Pakistan, what? Even the one video we saw in Pakistan we got a real laugh at, the one dude, the Pakistani dude said, no, I have a lot of black friends. I'm not a racist. It's the same thing. But because you're ignorant and won't search out to see how this stuff is so true that the Bible's talking about thousands upon thousands of years ago, you'll deny it and be what? In that stupor and in that sleep that you're in.
Okay.
Without even checking.
Okay.
See, because it's very easy to let cognitive dissonance just break your whole, shatter your thing with something. Oh, you racist, or you're a coon, or you're Edomite, or you're this.
Well,
and then that way, that means it disqualifies anything that you have to say.
Okay, so if we were here in the summer and I had a T-shirt on and I would pull my sleeve up like this, I guess I must be a real Edomite because people don't judge not by the appearance, but judge righteous judgment.
Exactly right.
So, that exclusionary tactics based upon your hate is not something that the Lord says is righteous, and we're just going to leave it at that.
Exactly.
Let's look at 41, Deuteronomy 28.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. Thou shalt begot sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
School to prison pipeline? 94 crime bill?
That's just recent today.
Nixon's war on drugs? When y'all get high on opiates, y'all going to jail. Somebody else get high on opiates starting a couple years ago. They getting free dope and medicine in the place to crash.
We got to get Narcan.
Yeah, okay.
Make sure they don't OD.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, and here's one, I think, because there's not really enough time to go over all of this. Read 43 and 44.
Deuteronomy 28, 43 and 44. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt become down very low.
Okay, so these cats selling us food at these corner stores that they won't eat, a lot of them.
Right.
And they get loot.
Right.
But we can't get together and band up and get our own stuff because a lot of us that would have a store don't want to deal with our own kids. Right. But that couldn't possibly be us. Read this next one.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
So, picture a dog, right? Picture a dog. The head gets what? Gets all the food and the sustenance. What does the tail of the dog see?
What comes out the end?
The refuse. And in a way, that's how we are in this society.
Right.
You know, so
And we're the biggest complainers and whiners in the world.
well, we get the tail end.
But the squeaky wheel don't get the oil, does it?
No.
Because we've been marching, we've been burning candles, we've been sitting out, sitting in, and bowing down.
Okay. Asking for longer change.
Exactly.
Read 49. Read 49 and 50. Excuse me.
So it says here, 49.
Yeah.
The Lord shall bring thee.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
Freedom!
Right.
Okay.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Yeah, we know English, but go into that court
Right.
system and try to talk that language that they talk.
Right.
We don't understand that, and we don't understand the power of the words that are in the languages where we're scattered at throughout the world. Read 50.
A nation of fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
So what are they talking about cutting next out the federal budget right now? Aid to our older and younger people.
Right.
You know, they talk about taking the the Social Security and from the older people, then they talk about taking the aid from the needy and the younger people.
Right.
You know,
And who's the needy and the younger people?
usually
a lot of our
us,
people
because of the situations that we're born into.
And people say, well, there's more of the majority or white folks on these things than black folks. Yeah, because when you do numbers, it's a simple mathematical equation.
There's more.
You got 12% of a whole number versus what? 65 to 80%.
Yes.
I don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
but it's a
always
very
an average.
big.
Yeah.
So you got of course it's going to be more. Go ahead.
Of course. And read this in 62. Read 62.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 62, speaking of the curses. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God.
Minorities.
Right.
That's what we're going to be called, minorities. Read 64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Okay,
so now go to Isaiah 11. So we're going to be forced, just like we were here in this country, forced into by slavery, by not having a choice. Even the natives, I guess, what you want to call them, when they came over here to take this land with the Magna Carta Manifest Destiny doctrines, they put a sword in the ground and a stake in the ground with a picture of Caesar Borgia on it and said, choose.
Right.
You know, so we're going to be just like they are. We're going to be just like the Gentiles, caught up into their traditions, their doctrines, their religions, but we still are separate. They know we're separate from them.
See, now let's just look at this, how Bible prophecy lines up with what happened in real history.
Yeah.
Every nation that it talked about that conquered a place did what? We're going to make one people, everybody be one people according to our dictates. What do you think is any different with what we're in right now?
It can't be.
Exactly.
But that cognitive dissonance and then the double down, the double speak, Orwell's double thing.
Right, exactly.
Okay, read Isaiah 11. Read 10 through 12, because these people will be called, and that comfort and hope of the scriptures in Christ, according to his edification and understanding as well as his example, is what can draw us out of that, even though we may not move out of that country. Where are we going to go? You know what I mean? But we will live and pass the time here as travelers.
Ain't that what Romans 15 said?
Yes.
That through that hope.
Yes.
It's going to.
Okay.
So
exactly.
Isaiah 11 verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
Who's the Gentiles? Read verse 11.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
Of who?
Of his people.
Flashback. Of who?
Of his people.
Of who?
Of his people.
Okay.
Which shall be left from Assyria. And
is that in North Central South America?
No, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Okay, read on.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel.
The who?
The outcasts of Israel.
Okay.
And gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Not North
the
Central.
Entire earth.
Not North Central South America and the island and the Caribbean islands.
Not just the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and whatever.
Of that sector
Yeah,
of the
right.
world. So here it is. The choice is ours, because what did the scripture say? Paul even quotes it in, I think, Romans 12. All my day I stretched my hand out and yelled out to a gainsaying and rebellious people. Don't want to hear. But if we bethink ourselves, I mean, if we critically think about our situation and compare it to what the Bible says, how we would be in these last days.
That's where the hope comes in.
Exactly. And we have to take a hold of that hope, because if we don't, this is what's going to happen. We only got about 3.5 minutes.
Where you at?
I got Proverbs 1, 24 to the end. This is our choice. We have to take heed of this calling and make our calling and election sure by being obedient according to the example of Christ, or we ain't going to make it. So read Proverbs 1, verses 24 to the end.
Proverbs 1:24. Because I have called, and ye refuse. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation.
Wait a minute. So that's that fear of wondering what's going to happen. Am I going to get
in hearts.
Yeah, when am I going to get the payment for the wrong I'm doing and all that? That's what that is. So read that and read
Proverbs 1:27. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord.
That's the choice. Read on.
They would none of my counsel, they despise all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them.
The prosperity of what?
Fools shall destroy them.
Read on.
But whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil.
So we're definitely living in evil times,
Right.
and taking heed to the words of the Lord according to as they are written is our only hope.
Right.
It is the only thing that's going to get us through this judgment, this shaking of the earth that's going to come. And if we happen to pass before that comes, these scriptures, according to as it is written in the example of Christ, are the only thing that's going to give us hope that we'll be raised again and make it to that kingdom.
Right.
And that's, basically that's all it is. It's right there. That's the choice that we have. We can either be fearful of the things that's going on in this world and wonder what's happening next and worry about Trump and all this. Dude, I survived Nixon, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, and Bush 2. And this last dude. That are a continuation. You have to really have some understanding of the scriptures to see that. But they're a continuation one from the other. But no, they don't matter. These words do, so we have to go.
Giving all praises for the class, so we say shalom.
the Body of Christ Repentance Network, www.thebocc.com.